Hey there everyone, this is Samuel Johnson and welcome back to the Xiaolin Perspectives, and today we're going to be discussing episode 4 of Xiaolin Showdown, Katnappe. So, let's recap. So in the last episode of Xiaolin Showdown, the Xiaolin warriors managed to get their hands on a new Shengang Wu called the Golden Tiger Claws, a pair of tiger claws that allowed whoever utilized them to transport to anywhere in the world. As such, with Jack losing it, Wuya once again was chastising him, chewing him out, and calling him a hopeless loser, when suddenly the new villain of the week appeared. In this case, a girl that had visited Jack's lab earlier in that episode, thought that everything looked cool, and has now come back in full supervillain attire, calling herself Katnappe. I call her Discount Catwoman, but whatever. Point is, she's competent, evil, and Wuya sees potential in her. And so in this episode, we see her kind of sort of working with Jack and Wuya. Also, it's here we learn that her real name is apparently Ashley, so there you go. But either way, Jack is all against having her on board the team because, well, he thinks that she's stealing his thunder. So he just wants her gone, while Wuya just tells Jack that he has to suck it up and deal with it, especially since he's lost so many Shengang Wu, and the only Shengang Wu they have to their name currently are the Fist of Tebigong and the Jetbutsu. So they're kind of wanting for Shengang Wu right now, so they can use all the help they can get, especially since Wuya finds Jack's robots to be incompetent. As such, while Jack is reluctant to have her on, he kind of has no say in the matter. In the meantime, back with our heroes, they're essentially just playing with the Golden Tiger Claws and testing them out. And we actually see how they manage to transport people, as all you have to do is just equip the Tiger Claws to your hand, and then just call their name, and then scratch at the surface, and the Tiger Claws literally rip a hole in time and space, which you can jump through, which brings you to wherever you want to go. With Kimiko testing it out by going to the nearby mountain near the temple, and then Clay uses it to go to an all-you-can-eat buffet, which actually has a very good steak. Raimundo then uses it to mess with Omi, but when it comes time for Omi to use it, he starts spouting about how awesome this is going to be before he can even use it. That's when Dojo and Master Feng come in because well, a new Shengang Wu has revealed itself. In this case, a pair of chopsticks called the Changing Chopsticks that have the ability to shrink whoever wields them down to the size of a grain of rice. As such, that immediately takes priority, so no playing around. Though Omi's still a little excited to go because he thinks maybe he can use the Tiger Claws in a Xiaolin showdown. And as such, the Xiaolin warriors make their way to where the Tiger Claws are, but likewise the villains manage to get there first. And it looks to me like the Changing Chopsticks are at the Easter Islands, and I also just realized a minute ago that I said the Xiaolin warriors went to go look for the Tiger Claws, and those the chopsticks. Whatever. Point is, good guys and bad guys have gone to the Easter Islands to find the Changing Chopsticks, and the bad guys beat the heroes to it. And once again, Katnappe shows more of her arsenal of tools to kind of trounce Jack, as apparently she has a triplet. She has 3 kittens at disposal that are genetically altered to be super kittens. Don't know where she gets them. Maybe she just runs in the right circles. Point is, she's got animals that do her bidding and they kick ass, and so she sends them out to start looking for the Changing Chopsticks. Eventually, both the good guys and the bad guys manage to find the Changing Chopsticks in the nostrils of one of the Easter Island heads, and of course, Katnappe reaches for them just as Omi does. And so, with both their hands on the Shengang Wu, Omi challenges Katnappe to a Xiaolin showdown. The challenge this time is just simply a game of tag. Whoever tags the other first wins. And so, while Katnappe has no experience with a Xiaolin showdown, she just accepts it with Jack being forced to lend her the Fist of Tebigong. And so, it's Xiaolin Showdown time. And again, it's still really cool effects as all the Easter Island heads, as the sky gets darker and the Easter Island heads close in around everybody to essentially make an arena where Omi and Katnappe can fight. And of course, Omi once again exposits about the Tiger Claws can allow him to go anywhere in an instant, but, well, he shouldn't have done that because, well, Katnappe immediately gets the trounce on him, to the point where she actually wins the showdown in seconds, using the Fist of Tebigong to cause a small earthquake that shakes the ground so much that Omi loses his balance, drops the claws, and Katnappe immediately grabs them and then uses them to warp to Omi and tag him. So, yeah, once again the good guys lost, resulting in Katnappe winning the Tiger Claws, the Changing Chopsticks, and, well, she already got the Fist of Tebigong, so whatever. So, yeah. She's actually proving to be very competent. So much so that when Jack, and Wuya return to Jack's base, Wuya has every intent on just ditching Jack. Because clearly, Katnappe is the more competent villain here, and she thinks that with Katnappe by her side, Wuya will be able to rule the world and all that crap. Katnappe does not give a shit about ruling the world. Or more specifically, she doesn't give a shit about ruling the world with Wuya. She's not, in fact, with all the time that she spent with Jack and Wuya, her opinion of them has actually gotten lesser. She thinks Wuya is bossy and annoying, and she finds Jack to be a whiny baby. Point is, while she isn't content to do all the criminal shit, she doesn't really want to do it with these two. As such, she decides to take the golden tiger claws as a keepsake because she thinks they work well, and she just ditches them, meaning that Wuya now has no choice but to stick with Jack Spicer, which Jack immediately rubs in her face, which I kind of like. I find that funny. Either way, back with the Xiaolin warriors, Omi's kind of beating himself up that he lost the tiger claws, and while the other Xiaolin monks try telling him it's okay, it's all right to lose one battle, Master Feng comes in and tries to use this as a teachable moment, telling them that in victory we learn no lessons, but it's in defeat that we can learn 1,000. Which, I'm not quoting that verbatim, but that is kind of what he says. And so the monks are confused by this, so Master Feng challenges them to a test. Basically, he has a jade elephant, and he says that if the monks can get this, or the monks in training can get the elephant away from him, then they don't get it. Then they have no chores for 1 week. If they lose, then they have to scrub the floors of the Grand Hall. As such, the monks accept the challenge, and while they do put up a good fight, well, Master Feng is much more competent than them, and then likewise, just as they're about to get the Jade Elephant, he smashes the thing. Which, at first, they're wondering if that's even allowed, but, well, it's victory enough in Master Feng's eyes, because his intent was to make sure they didn't get the elephant. So yeah, he may not have gotten it, but they still lost, so that's victory enough for him. And he tells them to mull it over as they scrub the floors, which they do, and it takes them all night, and the next day, they're just aching. Either way, however, it's also the next day where Kimiko is searching the web, and she ends up finding reports of all these various robberies around the world, and they're able to deduce that it was Katnappe using the golden tiger claws to just go from place to place and rob everything, with the latest reports coming from a place called the Mall of the World, which I guess is just the Mall of America, but bigger. Either way, the Xiaolin monks realize they can't let her continue to misuse the Shengong Wu like this, and so they get Dojo to bring them to the Mall of the World where they confront Katnappe as she's in the middle of a spree. Unfortunately, though, with the tiger claws, she immediately trounces all of them as she warps around, ties them up, and Clay apparently refuses to fight her because she's a girl. To my knowledge, this never comes up again in any other episode, so, it's weird. Point is, though, Xiaolin monks get their asses kicked and Katnappe runs off. As such, the Xiaolin monks wonder what they can... As such, the Xiaolin monks just leave to lick their wounds, but they still have absolutely no idea where they can find Katnappe. As the reports have stopped coming in, and apparently she's been to all the places that the monks would think that she would go, but they start thinking, well, she's clearly going to places for amusement, she's a cat-themed supervillain, well, are there any places like that in the world? And apparently there is. There is a massive theme park called Catatonia Land, which is a very popular theme park, and it's entirely cat-themed. Coincidence. Either way, they believe that she'll be going there, and so Dojo brings them there, and sure enough, their hunch is right, as she's at Catatonia Land causing mayhem and riding a roller coaster. As such, the monks decide they're going to head her off when she exits the roller coaster, but once again, they've got to think of a new strategy. They can't just fight her head on like they would before, or else she's just going to wipe the floor with them. And likewise, there's of course Clay's whole I don't want to fight a girl thing, which never comes up again after this episode, but it's with that little reminder that Omi is hit with inspiration. And so, as Katnappe exits the roller coaster and confronts the monks, Clay is actually sent forward. And while at first Katnappe just immediately sees him as a non-threat since he said he wouldn't fight girls, he just goes up to her and gives her a big bear hug, holding her in place so she can't even fight back. It's not fighting her. So, but it works. As such, as she struggles, it allows Omi to get in close and just rip the tiger claws off of her. And while she does try sicking more of her cats on the group, again, they're able to at least fend them off more. Especially since in the last fight, the cats are more concerned with Dojo, and apparently he's allergic. But whatever. Either way, she is bereft of tiger claws. Unfortunately, Jack and Wuya arrive on the scene as to try and track Katnappe. Jack had created these bloodhound bots to track her scent, so they're once again here and they want to claim the tiger claws. And sadly, the bad guys outnumber the good guys right now, so it looks like they might just get the tiger claws. As such, Omi, now armed with these things, well, he decides that he can't let the bad guys have them. And so, he uses the tiger claws to once again rip a hole in time and space, and which starts sucking things in, namely the bloodhound bots, and Wuya and Omi and then takes the golden tiger claws and then just chucks them right into the portal, causing it to close and for everyone to wonder what the heck was going on. As such, of course, everyone asked the obvious question. Why did Omi do that? Simply put, he wanted to use the Tiger Claws, but ultimately the main priority was to make sure the bad guys didn't get to use them either, as they were going to clearly misuse them to do whatever the hell they want. So Omi had to send the Tiger Claws somewhere that they will never be able to get them. The Earth's core. As such, while the good guys can't use them, neither can the bad guys. So yeah, that's a victory enough. And so the bad guys are annoyed that they are annoyed, but ultimately they decide to leave as well. With Jack and Wuya now having to give Katnappe a ride since her mode of transportation was just taken from her. And so the episode ends as the monks return home, and they decide to send. While Omi admits he's disappointed that he didn't get to use the Tiger Claws again, it's still victory enough. Though the monks begin wondering what other lessons that they need to learn, because Master Funk said 1,000 lessons and they've only learned a few. And so Master Funk arrives on the scene, once again re-challenges them to the whole Jade thing, as he challenged them to get a Jade Monkey, but the monks have learned from experience that they're not going to win that, so they just bolt, and Master Funk and Dojo just kind of snicker at them. So, yeah, that was Katnappe. And my thoughts on the episode? It's alright, in my opinion. It's nothing really too fantastic. The main focus of the entire episode, as the title of it implies, is on Katnappe, and, she's a villain of the week, I can say that. I'll give credit where it's due. She's not like Le Mime, who was just clearly meant to be an obstacle that the heroes had to overcome, as she very much has a personality and does actually create a threat. As she's not incompetent, she has a lot of tools at her disposal that she can utilize to basically trounce the heroes. I'm just restating my points at this point. My point is, she's actually a competent villain and can handle herself, even more so than Jack, despite the fact that he has more resources than she does. But ultimately, the thing about her, as I said before, she's Diet Catwoman. Her whole gimmick is that she doesn't adopt the villain guys because she has a grander end goal in mind. She doesn't want to rule the world like Jack or Wuya. She just likes messing around and screwing with people. The whole reason she was attracted to Jack as a villain was because she liked the allure that he presented as an evil boy genius, and she basically looked at that and thought, I want to get in on this. And so, like Jack, she likes the theatrics of being a villain, but unlike Jack, who has grander aspirations and genuinely wants to rule all that he sees, she just wants to dick around with people for her own amusement. Yeah, she does like living the high life, but ultimately she's one of those villains that doesn't want to take over the world for the simple pretense of, she doesn't want it. She doesn't want the world. She likes screwing around with the world. She just wants whatever she wants, and that's all that she's ever going to aim for. And she only tolerated Jack and Wuya because she thought that what they were peddling sounded fun, and the instant it stopped sounding fun to her, she just GTFO'd with the spoils of war, in this case, the Tiger Claws. So, in that regard, she's all right. Again, there's nothing really too interesting with her. While she does come back in later episodes, again, she's just kind of a standard villain of the week, so to speak. Nothing too awful about her. She's all right for what she is, but at the same time, I wouldn't call her a great villain either. She's just all right. Just all right. As for the actual plot of the episode, again, I'll say this. I liked the moral for this episode. Yes, it's again a good one. I can say that for these first few episodes. I think the morals so far have actually been really interesting ones and actually do approach conflicts in a very unique and interesting manner, showcasing that it's not always just punch really hard or fight the bad guy. That sometimes fighting against an oppressor does require thinking outside the box. We were shown that in the first episode when Omi took inspiration from the other Xiaolin monks in training and how he used that training to overcome the showdown against Jack. We saw that with Clay in Like a Rock. We saw that with Clay as we saw his simple solutions to complicated problems mentality as he approached what looked like larger than life problems, but he was able to think of a solution very quickly to get out of. And likewise with Kimiko, there was a lesson in focus and how if you utilize focus, you can allow for a clearer path to your objective. And for this episode, it shows what I'm going to call a bittersweet lesson. That sometimes victory doesn't feel earned. That sometimes victory may not feel sweet, But at the end of the day, sometimes you do need to do things that you don't want as long to try and reach a greater goal. In this case, Master Fong presented something very interesting. Presented a very interesting ideal. In this case, like he said, while the monks would have preferred to have a victory with some spoils, like getting the tiger claws back from Katnappe, ultimately the bigger problem was making sure the bad guys didn't get their hands on this thing. They were obviously going to misuse it, and it's clear that they all wanted it bad. Katnappe was using it to cause a lot of problems, and then likewise when the Xiaolin monks got their hands on it again, well, again, Jack Spicer caught up with them and began trying to, and because of his bloodhound bots combined with Katnappe and her cats, the bad guys now outnumbered the good guys. And yeah, while Jack and Katnappe probably would have fought over the tiger claws again, the problem was just letting either of them have it at all. So the best solution? Not let no one have it. It's not something that everybody would want, especially since the good guys would benefit from having the tiger claw just as much as the bad guys. But at the end of the day, yeah, they may not have gotten everything they wanted, but their end goal was to make sure that these people didn't win either. So they had to take their victory where they could, and it wasn't a pretty victory, but it was a victory nonetheless. And while the solution that Omi gave was not like a death-defying solution, like ultimately nobody got hurt because of it, I do find this to be a very intriguing moral for kids to learn, because on a grander scale, this is kind of a gray lesson to learn. That sometimes to achieve victory, you may have to sacrifice something. And again, that's why I call it doesn't sound good, but that's why I'm putting that in this in a gray moral light. Because on a grander scale, sometimes to achieve what you want, what your end goal, it means kind of in chess terms sacrificing a pawn or two. And likewise, and that's what we kind of see here. That yeah, as the Xiaolin monks' end goal in their eyes was to just get the tiger claws back. But the grander goal, as I've been continually saying, was to make sure the bad guys didn't have it. And so they had to essentially sacrifice the claws in order to do it. Much like what Master Feng did to the Jade Elephant, as his end goal was to make sure the monks didn't get the elephant. So yeah, he may not have had it anymore, but they didn't get it either, and so that was victory enough. They failed their task, and so that was his victory. And so as a result, the lesson I see here is, again, a very gray one. That sometimes to achieve victory, you do need to kind of lose something in its place. And yeah, you may not like it, but ultimately it's kind of a grander pick design kind of deal. And yeah, this is part of the reason why it's still a gray lesson, because I'm not always for that kind of lesson, because sometimes by sacrificing something small for a greater whole, you kind of start to lose the reason you were even reaching that end goal in the first place. And yeah, sometimes you do need to have a moral standard for that one, but at the same time, there are times when you may need to think of the grander picture and start weighing things out, which I don't like saying because it's kind of a difficult thing to say, and honestly, that kind of gets into the moral conundrum of how much do you weigh a life in terms of everything else. So in that regard, it's a kind of a gray lesson, but the way they kind of showcase it in the episode, I think is an ideal lesson for kids to learn, and likewise, it's still one of those lessons that you can mull over and think about. So in that regard, I do think it's implemented well enough. So, I like that. Plus, this is also one of the first episodes where the Xiaolin showdown was not the climax of the episode. Yeah, there was still a showdown here, but as Dojo joked about in the episode, it lasted for just a few seconds. Omi lost the tiger claws with just a simple pound to the ground with a fist of Tebi Gong, and as a result, it was over. It was over quickly. And yeah, this doesn't happen very often in this show, where the Xiaolin showdown isn't the climax of the episode, but it does happen occasionally, where sometimes the plot of the episode focuses on the aftermath of the showdown rather than getting to the showdown proper, which again, I'm okay with. While the show is called Xiaolin Showdown, at the end of the day, the main focus is on the monks trying to find the Shengang Wu and the obstacles they encounter on the way, which in this case are the supervillains and them trying to get the Shengang Wu first. So I like that. Plus, let's at least talk about the changing chopsticks, which while they're not used in this episode, they're all right. They're pretty all right, Shengang Wu. In concept, I find them to be a little off, but in execution, they're done well. Because shrinking down to get is easily a good way to do proper espionage, to get into places that you couldn't before, and all that stuff. So in that regard, they are kind of cool. Plus, it is cool to see the Tiger Claws in action, so I like that. If I have to give any other flaws, though, I think maybe the stuff with Clay. With Clay, again, it's a character thing. It's a character tick that doesn't really come up again because spoilers in other episodes of the series the Xiaolin warriors do fight girls, and Clay kind of loses his whole moral conundrum of not wanting to fight girls, which yeah, I don't really get it. It's supposed to be chivalrous? I don't know. But either way, it doesn't really come up again after this episode. It was only there to create an artificial conflict, in my opinion. And likewise, I'm just going to say this right now, the action wasn't that great in this episode. It didn't feel as fast-paced or as strong as other episodes. It just felt slightly lackluster. While did have its moments, especially when the Xiaolin Warriors first fought Katnappe, as there were times when they actually properly clashed with her well, otherwise it didn't really feel as cool as it was in other episodes. So, yeah. But, so, as the result, the episode, I think, is just alright. Alright. Katnappe is an alright villain. Nothing too great. Nothing too great. It's kind of more interesting than the last villain of the week, but still not as memorable as others. The Tiger Claw... Yeah, the lesson I do find to be actually a good one that actually does kind of present it in enough of a simple light that kids could absorb it and take it in and possibly mull it over if they wanted to apply it to other things, so to speak. And likewise, the Tiger Claws, I think, in execution were pretty well, and I did like the ending. But at the same time, also another positive. I like that this is the first time that we actually see Wuya favoring someone else over Jack. Because, like I said, going back to the Like a Rock episode, when that episode presented the whole Wuya mulling over, ditching Jack Spicer for someone more competent, and this is the first time that she even attempts it. It fails in the end of the day, but it's the first time that she tried to do it. As she saw Katnappe as more competent than Jack, it was more than willing to throw Jack to the wind in favor of Katnappe. And I find it hilarious. And I still find it hilarious that when Katnappe pretty much told her, nah, not interested. So, yeah, I kind of like that. It's kind of fun. But yeah, on the whole, but like I said, in terms of flaws, well, the action wasn't as great, didn't feel as great. The whole character tick with Clay really didn't really do anything for me. And didn't even factor into his character, I mean. And likewise, like I said, Katnappe, while an alright villain, there are better ones, and as a villain of the week, she's not that interesting. Hell, I think next week's villain is a lot more interesting than her. But point is, the episode itself was all right. It was all right. It had enough good points that I still can give it a thumbs up. But in other areas, it just felt a little lacking. So, yeah, take that for what it's worth. So, yeah, I think that's really all I have to say. I thank you for watching. I'm Samuel Johnson. Hopefully this video wasn't just me going blah, blah, blah for 23 minutes, but I hope to see you next week and look at the next episode. So until then, I hope you have a good Friday, and take care.